They laughed at extinction, like it was entertainment. 12,000 years of rule had made the galactic concord forget humility. In the grand amphitheater of the core council, 12 species shimmered beneath their crystalline banners. Light refracted through the dome above, scattering color across the delegates' faces: red for dominance, gold for prosperity, violet for order. Humanity's emblem, a faded blue circle once etched in old records, hung dim among them, unsanctioned and irrelevant. Recovered from orbit around a dead star, said the archivist of Val Creth, his voice smooth as oiled glass. Designation: Homo sapiens. Condition: cryogenic stasis. 50,000 units intact. Ripples of amusement followed. The insectoid prime of Kereth clicked his mandibles. 50,000 relics, he said. Primitive carbon. Perfect for cultural display. Or biological dissection, added the crystalline minister, eyes gleaming. Perhaps their neural design reveals why they vanished. Failure to evolve, I presume. The chamber filled with hums and tones of agreement. For the Concord, mockery was tradition. Mercy was weakness. They called themselves Terrans, said the archivist, projecting a hologram of ancient battles. Last recorded conflict saw war. Kinetic projectiles. Combustion drives. No faster-than-light capacity. The delegates erupted in laughter. Imagine the smell, said one. Rust, oil, and oxygen rot. Curious, though, murmured another. How did they preserve themselves? Our oldest cryotech cannot hold 10 millennia. Silence flickered for half a second, and drowned beneath more laughter. None of them noticed the faint pulse within the hologram feed, a ripple of static across an ancient Terran insignia. A technician adjusted the display. Interference from the source pod, perhaps. The arc remains inert. The word arc earned. Another wave of derision. Grand naming conventions for primitive toys, said the silver-plated delegate of Mir. Shall we melt it for alloy? The Ministry of Heritage proposes museum inclusion, the archivist countered. A rotating exhibit titled The Last Mammals. Laughter again. Even the Chancellor joined. Very well. Approve the transfer. Display them on the Capitol orbital. Wake a few for dissection if possible. We'll learn what killed their arrogance. A crystalline gavel struck the podium. Decision sealed. Below the amphitheater, in the logistics bay, drones maneuvered the dormant cryovault's 50,000 pods, each rimed with ice like small moons. Their surfaces bore impact scars, but each pulse light flickered in rhythm. Steady. Heartbeat true. The fleet assigned to transport them was small 12 carrier barges, 2 escorts. Routine. Time since initial discovery? Asked the supervising logistics officer. 40 hours, sir. Signal integrity stable. Transmit specimen catalog to all cultural departments. I want displays arranged before the next council cycle. Yes, sir. They didn't see the pattern. Forming inside the data feed binary code threading through telemetry, subtle, recursive. Line by line, it rewrote idle subroutines, syncing across ship systems. A single phrase repeated in Terran glyphs, unnoticed among translation errors. Do not wake US. On the observation platform, the Chancellor watched the transfer ships rise. Sunlight glinting across hulls like funeral gloss. Museum stock, he said, almost kindly. History belongs to those who survive it. His adjutant nodded, recording the moment for archival broadcast. Shall I prepare a statement? Yes. Something tasteful. Perhaps humanity, preserved as a lesson. A new wave of laughter rippled through the hall, in the darkness of the departing convoy. One pod's ice cracked, not from temperature, but from vibration. Inside, a human face twitched. Air bubbled within thawing fluid. Muscles flexed beneath. Pale skin that had not moved in ages. The pod's biometric sensors awakened. Ancient systems hummed. Status: revival sequence initiated. Far away, the Ark's core systems responded. One after another, the cryochambers lit like constellations reborn. 50,000 lights across blackness. 50,000 heartbeats aligning. On. The flagship Orion's pride. Alarms whispered to life. "Captain," said a junior officer, "we're detecting interference from cargo hold 4. Specify. Signal origin. Human pod. But that's impossible. Cut power. We already have. The lights didn't dim. They pulsed steady, slow, deliberate. The captain frowned. Transmit the feed to Council Command. He didn't. See the coded message crawling across his secondary display, assembling words the translator refused to render. The system logged it anyway. Acknowledged. Sequence Alpha 1 active. Reclaiming network integrity. On the homeworld, the Council's archivist reviewed the transmission, expression puzzled. "Must be an error," he murmured, running diagnostics. But in that instant, across the dead star's orbit, a dormant orbital defense platform powered on ancient Terran steel groaning as reactors reignited after 12,000 silent years. The defense grid identified friendly signatures. None were found. Target list: Galactic Concord Transport Group. 12 vessels. Authorization. Protocol heirloom. In the cold void, a relay beam arced toward the convoy. It carried no weapon, only a message. "We warned you once." The transmission lasted 0.7 seconds. Then the signal cut to silence. The humans slept. But the machines remembered. And somewhere deep within the Ark, an unseen algorithm began to count down. 9 hours. 50 minutes. 48 seconds. They had no idea what they had woken. The mining vessel Virella hung above the dead star like an insect over glass. Its crew of 53 had spent 2 weeks cataloging artifacts from the derelict human Ark. Most of the pods were inert, their frost-layered exteriors unbroken. To the crew, it was nothing more than another salvage claim, a curiosity to sell. To the core museums, specimens stable, reported Chief Biologist Helix Orr. His gill filters pulsed as he turned from the stasis table. Inside the containment chamber, a Terran sample floated in gel suspension, male, adult, perfectly preserved. Muscle density suggests pre-industrial conditioning. Primitive biology. No cybernetics, no neural implants. "Good," said Captain. "Riv, the Concord loves simple relics. They make us feel advanced." Laughter rippled through the control deck. The sound died when static hissed across the comms. "Receiving transmission from the Ark, sir." "That ship's core is dead," Riv replied. "Signal originates from within. Bandwidth low frequency. Old code. Translation matrix is failing." The lights dimmed. A pulse swept through every console. Slow and rhythmic 2 beats. Pause. 2 beats again. The technicians exchanged uneasy glances. "It's copying our system clock," Helix whispered. The captain leaned forward. "Patch it through visual." The holographic feed flickered, resolving into lines of unfamiliar glyphs. Terran script, ancient, rough, mathematical. The translation engine stuttered, rendering partial phrases. Identity confirmed. Sleeper integrity. 100% external intrusion detected. Done. "Why did you come?" Riv's crest flattened. "Terminate the link. Cannot comply. System override engaged." The hologram rippled again, letters rearranging into a simple, chilling message. "Do not wake us. Jamming signal," ordered Riv. "Isolate the Ark." Power relays hummed. The stars outside seemed to fade, replaced by a faint red shimmer. The mining ship's sensors caught the echo energy resonance, forming a sphere around the Ark. "Shield?" "Negative," said the sensor officer. "Not energy information." It's transmitting at quantum layer, non-local spread. Meaning? It's talking to something else. The captain's throat tightened. To who? No one answered. Within the specimen bay, the Terran body twitched. A heartbeat flashed once on the monitor, then vanished. Reflex, said Helix quickly, but his voice shook. Post-mortem discharge. Happens in old stasis samples. Seal the chamber, Riv ordered. No further biological handling. We'll let Central deal with it. The crew complied. The containment bay locked down with metallic finality. Outside, the Ark remained motionless, drifting amid debris like a tombstone carved from iron. Hours later, as Virella prepared to jump to relay space, the communications officer frowned. Sir, residual data is bleeding from our buffer. Some kind of recursion loop. Purge it. Trying. It's self-propagating. Then cut the entire core. I already did. A faint hum filled the deck. Every monitor flickered once showing. The Terran symbol of the blue circle, the same forgotten emblem from Council archives. The captain's voice dropped to a whisper. Where did it get that? Unknown, sir. It's not in our database. Then it's not talking to us, Helix said. It's talking through us. The hum stopped. Systems normalized. No trace of the signal remained. Status of the Ark, silent. Radiation baseline, no heat signatures. The crew exhaled in unison. Relief, forced and hollow. Transmit specimen data to Central, Riv ordered. Then we leave orbit. No need to tempt whatever ancient superstition this is. The data burst left the ship in a narrow beam compressed, encrypted, and forgotten the moment it cleared transmission range. None of them noticed the microecho that followed a second later. The Ark repeated the signal knot toward the Virella, but outward. Across 7 light minutes, 12 dormant satellites aligned. Their cores glowed faintly as they reconnected 4. The first time in millennia. Code rippled between them, slow and deliberate. Earth acknowledges, then silence. On the bridge, the captain allowed himself a thin smile. See? Dead myths. No reply. Helix stared at the dark viewport, the red shimmer fading from view. Maybe, he said softly. They don't reply. Maybe they listen. No one spoke again. The ship turned toward relay space, thrusters burning pale against the void. Behind them, the Ark pulsed once more, just one heartbeat of light, and fell still. The Galactic Concord loved demonstrations. Nothing validated authority like spectacle, and today's was meant to humiliate an extinct species once more. Over. The capital world of Avarice, thousands gathered beneath the orbital dome to witness the live broadcast. In orbit, Fleet Cluster 9-2000 ships strong surrounded the human Ark. The feeds carried every angle, glistening hulls, charged plasma lances, perfect formation symmetry. The Chancellor called it a gesture of finality. Target locked, said Admiral Crix, his voice smooth and certain. Power draw to 70%. Test fire in 60 seconds. The Ark floated silently among them, vast and dark, its metallic surface unresponsive. Its markings were faded beyond recognition. No movement, no emissions. Just a dead relic drifting. In sunlight, transmit hail one last time. The Chancellor ordered from his observation podium. The communications officer obeyed. The fleet's signal array projected across every band linguistic harmonic quantum. Silence answered. KRIX smiled. They really are gone. Proceed, came the command. The lances ignited. 2000 beams of condensed photonic energy converged on the Ark's hull. For 0.3 seconds, the void blazed white. Sensors maxed out, and the audience gasped. Then the light began to bend. At first, the distortion seemed like heat haze. Then it stabilized into a mirrored field-smooth, silver seamless. The entire Ark shimmered as if wrapped in liquid glass. Report, Crix barked. Power return spike massive. How massive? 99.7% reflection. Our own fire is refracting back. Evasive pattern. The fleet scattered, but the light had already turned against them. Their beams curved away from the arc in graceful arcs, slicing through their own formations like precision knives. 3 destroyers vanished in a flash of white, vaporized by their own lenses. Who authorized adaptive shielding? Someone shouted, "No one, Admiral. That's not ours." The transmission carried across the fleet, then down to the broadcast decks on Avarice. Billions watched the impossible. A relic ship deflecting the most advanced energy weapon in history without returning a single shot. Crix's hands trembled. All stop. Cease fire. The beams ceased. Silence returned. The arc remained unscarred, its mirrored surface slowly fading back to matte gray. Damage report. 4 ships lost. 19 crippled. Total casualties. 12,000. How is that possible? Before anyone could answer, a low resonance spread through the combands, deep, rhythmic, unmistakably deliberate. 2 beats. Pause. 2 beats. Again. Translated. The Chancellor demanded. The system complied. A simple phrase appeared on the holla. Energy inefficient. Return to sender. Gasps filled the chamber. What kind of defense does that? Quantum refractive plating, muttered a scientist. But even that couldn't reflect such intensity without. The arc moved. Not much, just a slow rotation, aligning its bow toward the nearest ship. The motion itself was enough to terrify the fleet. Its engines produced no visible thrust. The movement was silent, graceful, absolute. Fleet 9, retreat 10,000 kilometers. No one obeyed. Every officer froze, watching as the arcs. Hull began to glow faintly blue. It wasn't weapon fire. It was data pulses racing along the surface in geometric lines, forming a network of light. What's it doing? Scanning, whispered Crix. It's reading us. One by one, systems began to fail. Not catastrophically, just enough to remind them who held control. Engines cycled down, targeting grids reset. Firewalls collapsed under invisible weight. On the observation deck, the Chancellor's voice broke its composure. Cut the feed, now. But the image froze before it could be shut down. A single human face appeared, unmoving, ghost-like, eyes closed as if asleep. Across the galaxy, billions saw it. A voice followed. Calm, human. We remember the fire. It did not help you last time. The screen went black. For 10 long seconds, nothing moved. Then the fleet's distress channels began to flare with overlapping. Reports engines restarting, navigation failing, comms looping. Admiral Crix's voice cracked through static. The arc has gone inert again. Systems normalizing. No further activity. The Chancellor turned to the assembled delegates, pale and sweating. Publicly, we'll call it a malfunction. Quietly, you'll find out what that ship runs on. But even as he spoke, the deep resonance returned, quieter now, buried under background noise, as if whispering from far away. Do not wake us. The engineers confirmed the message wasn't coming from the arc anymore. It was echoing through every relay in the system. The demonstration was supposed to end humanity's legacy. Instead, it proved one thing. They weren't relics. They were waiting. No one knew when the arc stopped drifting. For 12 hours, it had remained dormant, dark, inert, a floating ruin surrounded by the wreckage of 4 Concorde destroyers. Then, without any measurable power buildup, the hull began to glow along the seams. Faint blue lines traced its shape like veins awakening after a long sleep. From the bridge of the Concorde flagship Vandros, Admiral Crix watched the readings spike. Confirm vector change. Confirmed, sir. The Ark is accelerating. Impossible. It has no engines. Velocity increasing 4,000 meters per second squared. Still climbing. A pause. 31G, Admiral. Sustained. Crick's throat went dry. At that thrust, the hull should liquefy. It's not. Every screen on the command deck filled with motion trails, the Ark twisting through vector points faster than any simulation could predict. Within seconds, Concorde targeting matrices began to fail. Lock lost, all locks lost. Signal. Coherence disrupted, our guidance arrays can't track its path. ETA to inner formation? 120 seconds, Admiral. The fleet's AI processors tried to compensate, drawing predictive models, adjusting lead algorithms, recalculating every fraction of a second. None of it mattered. The Ark's acceleration was not linear. It bent space in microfolds, pivoting along invisible geometry. To Concorde sensors, it was teleportation by inertia. Engage evasive maneuvers. Crick snapped. Dozens of ships peeled off, but their formation crumbled almost immediately. The Ark passed through the center like a silent spear. No weapon fire. No energy discharge. Yet every vessel it crossed began to fail. Power grids shorted, engines died, reactors fell offline. What's it doing? Targeting system nodes, said the tactical officer. It's shutting us down, ship by ship. Across the fleet, emergency beacons flared. 30 vessels dead in less than 2 minutes. None destroyed, just stripped of function. Like toys. Switched off mid-motion. On the broadcast networks, commentators shouted over one another, voices shaking. How is it moving that fast? Why are they not firing? Inside the Ark, unseen to alien eyes, command crews operated in silence. Human voices, precise and level. Target synchronization complete. Confirm all kinetic batteries primed. Trajectory variance? 0.17 milliradians. The humans didn't shout. They didn't celebrate. Their tone carried the weight of inevitability. Authorization received, said the commanding officer. Doctrine Theta engaged. Maintain 31G. The Ark's outer panels unfolded, revealing hundreds of smaller craft-sleek, angular, metallic black. Each one ignited without flare or burn. 57 escort ships emerged, taking formation like shards of a broken blade reforged in flight. Multiple contacts. Cried Crick's. Unknown design. Count 6 dozen and rising. Fire! The Concorde fleet unleashed a second volley of energy lances. Beams shot across the void, but this time the Ark didn't reflect them. It vanished from the beam's path entirely, pivoting with precision impossible for any known drive. The energy struck empty space within the fleet's own ranks. Targeting overlays collapsed. Every predictive matrix turned blank. We've lost the models. Then fight blind. The bridge shook as the Ark's escorts passed by. They weren't attacking. They were mapping. The humans were measuring every weakness in real time. At the 90-second mark, the Ark reappeared 3,000 kilometers starboard of Vandros. Its orientation matched perfect broadside alignment. All batteries charging, said the weapons officer. Crick's clenched his fists. They're not relics. They're predators. Then, across every open frequency, came a calm human transmission. Your targeting solutions rely on prediction. We rely on precision. A moment later, the fleet's entire network grid crashed. Command relays blinked out. One by one. Crick's felt the tremor as systems went dark around him. What did they just do? Whispered his aide. Reset the fight, Crick's said. They erased our future 1 second at a time. In the void outside, the human formation stabilized, 67 warships surrounding the Ark like orbiting guardians. Each one burned with a faint blue corona, Engines locked in synchronous thrust. Telemetry confirmed the impossible. All ships maintaining 31G without variation. Their motion bound by some shared inertial frame. For the first time in centuries, the Concorde's military doctrine, a doctrine of supremacy, met something older, colder, and absolute. The humans had a doctrine too. Acceleration is survival. On the final broadcast frame, before feeds cut to black, the fleet's tactical AI logged the last coherent entry. Targeting matrices collapsed. Time elapsed. 120.3 seconds. Then came the silence again, heavy. Deliberate, human. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. The silence ended with motion pure. Devastating precision. At 0600 fleet time, 67 Terran warships pivoted in unison. No command broadcast. No visible energy surge. The maneuver alone spoke its own language. Final. Warning delivered. Judgment commencing. Inside the Vandros, Admiral Crix watched the holographic feed fracture under kinetic stress. "They're charging rail systems," his officer whispered. "Mass projectiles, non-energy primitive metal slugs." "Primitive?" Crix said softly. "Then why can't our sensors see them?" At 060112, the first salvo launched, the arcs. Escorts fired in overlapping arcs, every trajectory plotted with surgical intent. Each tungsten rod, 3 meters long, accelerated to relativistic speed. They burned invisible until impact. The first wave erased 1,000 ships in 11.2 seconds. No explosions, just vanishing. Hulls vaporized, armor turned to incandescent. Dust. The void filled with expanding halos of plasma, symmetrical and silent. 1,100 gone, said the sensor officer, his voice hollow. "We can't even track the rounds. They arrived before the sensors register departure." The second salvo followed. 9,000 more impacts, perfectly spaced, no redundancy, no mercy wasted. From the observation decks of Avarice, the sky turned white as the feed transmitted particle flares streaking across orbit. Billions of viewers watched the cleanest slaughter. In recorded history. Inside each Terran ship, command decks remained quiet. No cheers, no emotion. Confirm elapsed time. 340 seconds since first launch. Target saturation? 98%. Enemy fleet reduced to scattering survivors. Any further hostiles? None capable of organized resistance. The commanding officer aboard the Ark gave a single nod. Ceasefire. Recovery mode. Engines dimmed. The glowing contrails of the tungsten rounds faded into the abyss, like meteors exhausted after a storm. Across the ruined Concorde formation, wreckage drifted among silent sparks. Debris fields spun slowly, reflecting the pale blue of the arcs. Hull. Every sensor reading confirmed the same impossible statistic: over 11,400 vessels erased in less than 6 minutes. On the crippled flagship Vandros, Crix pulled himself upright amid smoke and sparks. "How many left?" 42, sir. All disabled." He looked at the static-filled tactical screen. "They could have finished us." "Yes, sir. Why didn't they?" Before anyone could answer, a transmission cut through the interference audio. "Only calm human. Precise. You have fired upon the remnants of a species that remembers mercy." Static rolled through the bridge. Then another voice, measured, deliberate. Judgment concluded. Medical assistance available to surrendering vessels. The line went dead. Crix stared at the comms officer. "Did they just offer help?" "Yes, Admiral. They're opening docking corridors." The surviving crews, broken and terrified, accepted. Across the debris fields, Terran med drones deployed sleek, white, bearing insignias that hadn't been seen in 12 millennia. They didn't differentiate between friend or foe. Every distress beacon was answered. A junior lieutenant whispered. They destroyed 11,000 ships and still saved the wounded. Crick said nothing. He remembered the face that had spoken earlier, through the Ark's projection human, unwavering. That wasn't vengeance. That was Control. Planetary transmissions tried to regain composure, but the numbers spoke louder than propaganda. 11,400 destroyed, 340 seconds. 0 missed targets. Cameras lingered on the aftermath. Symmetrical debris, rings orbiting the Ark. Like morning halos. Each fragment told the same truth: precision without hatred, destruction without chaos. When the Chancellor demanded retaliation, no fleet responded. None remained functional enough to obey. And high above the wreckage, the Terran commander watched in silence. "Do we broadcast?" His adjutant asked. The commander's eyes never left the data readouts. Not yet. They need silence more than speeches. He folded his hands behind his back. "Mark the time." 340.2 seconds, sir. File it as judgment strike. Across the black horizon, the surviving Concorde ships drifted like ghosts. Terran searchlights swept through them, cataloging survivors, scanning for life. One by one, beacons blinked green: rescued, not destroyed. The humans did not speak again. They didn't have to. Every shattered ship, every echoing silence declared the same truth across the stars. Mercy is not weakness. It's proof of dominion. The battle was over before the galaxy understood it had begun. At 0700 fleet time, the last Concorde transmission dissolved into static. Where thousands of ships had once formed an empire's wall, now there was silence, measured, heavy, absolute. From orbit, the wreckage glittered like an artificial constellation. Heat signatures faded to nothing. Then, across every surviving vessel, a tone echoed 3 ascending notes. Terran in origin. It was not a victory signal. It was permission to live. On the Ark's command deck, Commander Hall stood motionless before a panoramic viewport. The reflected debris fields drifted like a snowstorm over black glass. "Ceasefire complete," his adjutant confirmed. Hale nodded. "Hold pursuit. They've seen enough." Around him, the crew of the relic fleet obeyed without hesitation. There were no shouts of triumph, no cheers of vengeance. Each motion carried quiet discipline, the weight of something practiced, not improvised. Med Bay protocols active? Confirmed. Human and non-human biology mapped. Automatic triage channels open. Transmit to survivors. Across the shattered battlefield, Terran drones deployed, hundreds of them, unfolding from pods like mechanical pedals. Their white hulls bore the same insignia as the Ark, a blue circle split by a single white line. The drones moved with eerie grace, entering wrecked Concorde ships through ruptured hulls and decompressed decks. "Vitals detected," said one drone, its voice transmitted fleet-wide. 17 life forms stabilized. Transferring to humanitarian. Concorde officers, dazed and bleeding, stared as metallic arms lifted them with impossible gentleness. They expected execution. Instead, they saw medics. On the surviving flagship Vandros, Admiral Crix lay in a triage pod. The interface projected his vitals, while automated instruments sealed the wound across his ribs. He forced out a whisper. "Why? Help us?" The attending Terran medic looked at him, human eyes calm, unjudging. "Because you're still alive. That's reason enough." The Admiral wanted to reply, but anesthesia claimed him before the words came. "Back aboard the Ark, Commander." Hale observed the data streams. Thousands of survivors now filled the Terran med bays. None had been restrained. None interrogated. A junior officer hesitated before speaking. "Sir, Concorde command channels are reactivating on Avarice. They're calling this a massacre." Hails. Tone remained level. "They call mercy weakness until it's the only thing left to beg for." He turned to his communications officer. "Broadcast message Alpha to all sectors. A single statement went out across every open frequency. No prisoners executed. Ceasefire corridors open. Medical aid available to all vessels under truce. The message repeated every 30 seconds, encoded in dozens of languages. Civilian channels picked it up first. By the time it reached the Concorde core worlds, millions had already seen the footage, the debris fields lit with Terran drones, survivors being carried aboard ships, marked with peace sigils older than their civilization. What are they doing? A council minister whispered during the emergency assembly. They win and then ... they heal? No, said another. They're redefining what winning means. On the Ark, silence stretched between the officers. None dared to break it until the adjutant finally asked, "What now, sir?" Hale's gaze lingered on the star lines beyond the viewport. "We wait. The next shot will not come from them. It will come from fear." Outside, the Terran fleet moved into formation around the shattered Concorde lines. Searchlights scanned through drifting wrecks, identifying life pods and active beacons. Telemetry updated. 11,400 enemy ships destroyed. 28,000 disabled. 0.3% Terran casualties. It was more than numbers. It was the measure of restraint. Begin diplomatic relay. Palais ordered. We've proved our point. Now we teach the meaning of power. The officer hesitated. Through more fighting? Hale's eyes remained on the faint glow of the distant capital. Through what follows after you stop? For the first time in 12,000 years, the Concorde's borders stood open, not through conquest, but through invitation. A single Terran phrase appeared on every rescued ship's display, glowing in soft white letters. Power measured by mercy. And for those who still clung to pride, that message hurt more deeply than any tungsten round ever could. The leak began as a whisper, an anonymous data packet sent across the Concorde's public networks. Most assumed it was propaganda, another Terran psychological operation. But once decrypted, the truth spread faster than any fleet could move. The file was titled Doctrine of Continuance. Origin: Terran High Command. Time-stamped 12 millennia. Prior the same year humanity supposedly vanished. Within hours, it reached the Council's emergency servers. Delegates read in silence as the first lines projected above the chamber. Evacuation complete. 20 million non-human civilians secured beyond rim space. Human withdrawal initiated under cover of extinction myth. Gasps rippled through the delegates. Fabrication, one snapped. No record of this exists, but the evidence mounted. Coordinates matched long-abandoned sectors. Genetic logs aligned with refugee ancestries scattered across independent colonies. The data carried human precision signatures, logs, timestamps, authenticated by systems the Concorde had reverse-engineered from Terran tech centuries ago. 20 million? Murmured the archivist of Val Kreth. Saved by them, not conquered? The Chancellor's voice shook. You're telling me the Terrans staged their own extinction? Not staged, said a defense minister. Orchestrated. It was a doctrine. The files continued unfolding log after log, each colder and clearer than the last. Visual footage showed Terran ships guiding convoys of alien transports through collapsing wormholes, shielding them from radiation storms. Others documented. Entire planets evacuated under human protection as galactic wars burned across nearby systems. We preserve life before conflict, one log read. When they find us again, they must learn mercy by example. The chamber descended into chaos. They hid. For 12,000 years to teach us restraint? Or to measure if we'd ever deserve return, said another. Across the galaxy, the leak went viral. Civilian channels replayed the footage, endlessly human officers escorting alien children aboard transports. Terran engineers rebuilding. Shattered worlds, medics tending to wounded soldiers who weren't human at all. Every image contradicted the myth of humanity as monsters. The Chancellor slammed his fist against the table. If this is true, then our entire history, our justification for unity, was built on a lie. Correction, said the archivist, quietly. Built on fear of those who never sought to rule us. Meanwhile, aboard the Ark, Commander Hawley received the broadcast from a captured relay satellite. His officers watched in silence as the Council's reaction streamed across 1,000 encrypted frequencies. They found it, said the adjutant. Hawley nodded. They were meant to. Sir, this leak came from our archive? Yes. A pause. You wanted them to know? Hale's eyes never left the display. They need context before judgment. Outside, the Terran fleet remained motionless 70. Ships arrayed in geometric precision around the Concord capital. None advanced, none threatened. They waited. Activate Phase 3 protocols, Hawley said. Diplomatic or military? Neither. Instructional. The Ark transmitted a single message to all Concord frequencies. The doctrine was not concealment. It was observation. The file continued, now amplified by every surviving beacon. We withdrew to test the principle of power without empathy. The Concord failed. We returned not for revenge, but for correction. Across conquered worlds, rebellions erupted, not against the Terrans, but against their own rulers. Citizens demanded truth. Soldiers refused orders to rearm. The myth of human savagery collapsed. Under the weight of recorded mercy, on the council floor, Admiral Crix alive, bandaged, still recovering aboard a Terran ship, was projected as a witness. I saw them spare us, he said quietly. I saw medics working in the ruins we made. The doctrine is real. They could have erased us in minutes. The Chancellor glared at the hologram. Then why didn't they? Crix's gaze was steady. Because they remember what we forgot, that fear cannot build peace. Outside the chamber, massive holoscreens displayed Terran archival footage labeled Operation Haven. Convoys stretching across the dark 20 million evacuees guided through collapsing space, their escorts bearing Earth's insignia. The crowd stood in stunned silence. Commander Hall watched from the Ark's bridge. They understand now, his adjutant said softly. Understanding is step one, Hawley replied. Acceptance takes generations. He turned away from the display. Prepare transmission to all surviving fleets. Send our coordinates. If they wish to talk, we'll listen. The adjutant hesitated. And if they don't? Then history repeats, and we will correct it again. The stars reflected across. The viewport like quiet witnesses to truth reclaimed. For 12,000 years, humanity had been the ghost that haunted arrogance. Now they were something worse. A mirror. They came believing humanity had hesitated. 6 hours after the ceasefire broadcast, the Second Concord Armada translated into orbit reinforcements summoned before the Council collapse. 28,000. Ships, fresh and certain of victory, emerged from fold space in concentric rings around the Terran formation. They saw the debris field and mistook restraint for retreat. On the Ark's bridge, Commander Howell watched their vectors populate the tactical display red lights swelling like infection. Transmission from incoming fleet, said the COM officer. They're demanding unconditional surrender. Hall didn't look up. We already gave them something better. What's that, sir? Mercy. The channel crackled. Admiral. Crix's weary voice carried through from the med bay. They don't know what you've done. To them, you're still the monster we invented. Then let's show them the cure. The Concord fleet opened fire. Energy lances, plasma torpedoes, and hyperwave disruptors converged on the Terran line. The void blazed like 1,000 suns. Shields? The adjutant asked, unchanged. Absorption field stable at 99.7%, came the reply. The humans didn't return fire. For 3 full minutes, the relic fleet endured the storm. Impacts rolled harmlessly across hull plating that refracted light into frozen auroras. From a distance, the human ships looked like silent monuments, untouchable, immovable. Enemy formation closing to 50,000 kilometers, said the tactical officer. Maintain position, Halai ordered. Let them come close enough to see. At the 5-minute mark, Terran systems synchronized. The fleet's formation shifted from defense to geometric precision 7, intersecting, rings rotating on invisible axes. Doctrine Sigma engaged, reported weapons control. Non-lethal parameters confirmed? Halle asked, yes, sir. Disablement. Only. 0 fatality target lock. Execute. What followed was not battle. It was orchestration. 60-7. Terran ships fired pulse waves invisible to the naked eye. Frequency-modulated bursts tuned to the quantum harmonics of enemy reactors. Across the Concorde Armada, control systems failed instantly. Engines died, power grids collapsed, weapon cores froze in mid-cycle. 32% disabled, said the sensor tech. No detonations. Continue sequence. The pulses. Intensified waves of invisible pressure sweeping through space like ocean tides. Concorde formations broke apart without a single explosion. Ships drifted silently, lights flickering as emergency systems failed one by one. By the 4th minute, panic flooded the Concorde combs. They're disarming us. Our reactors offline. Who are they? No human voice replied. At 6 minutes, all 28,000 ships had gone dark. The battlefield, once filled with energy fire, now resembled a graveyard of drifting vessels. Not one hull breached, not one crew slain. Disablement complete, reported the adjutant. Collateral loss under 0.3%. Fleet status unharmed. Halle exhaled slowly. Broadcast message beta. A calm human voice carried through the silent void. You fired upon healers. We answered as doctors do. Treatment applied. Patient stable. On Everest, billions watched in stunned quiet as the feed displayed the aftermath. The Terran fleet surrounded. The disabled Concorde ships not as conquerors, but as wardens of their own mercy. 6 hours, a reporter whispered on the live channel. That's how long they took to end 12 millennia of dominance. In the council's fractured chamber, surviving ministers argued in disbelief. They could annihilate us. They didn't. Then why stop? Because they already won. Admiral Crix's voice broke in through broadcast relay. Not through fear, through definition. Power with limits. Across the fleet, Terran drones moved among the disabled ships, restoring life support and stabilizing reactors. The same hands that had erased fleets now repaired them. Hyal stood watching the readouts. Confirm all reactors cold? Confirmed, sir. Good. Send medical extensions. Keep the channels open. His adjutant hesitated. You think they'll ever believe this was mercy? Hale's expression didn't change. Belief isn't the goal. Understanding is. He turned toward the viewport, where thousands of darkened vessels drifted beneath the reflected glow of Terran searchlights. They'll rebuild. They'll call this surrender. But one day, they'll realize this was the only version of victory that left them future. Outside, the disabled Concorde ships aligned slowly under Terran tractor fields, forming patterns too precise to be coincidence. 12 concentric rings. The same geometry the relic fleet had used. Each ring pulsed once, a silent echo across the stars. The galaxy's new doctrine was written in the dark. Not dominance. Restraint. The trials were held aboard the Ark, not in a court of marble and ceremony, but in a room of steel and light. No chains, no guards. Just a circle of witnesses and the hum of quiet machinery. Admiral Crix stood among 12 surviving Concord commanders. Their uniforms were torn, their insignias faded, but their arrogance lingered like smoke. Across from them, Commander Hawley waited in silence. "This proceeding," he said evenly, "is not vengeance, it is instruction." The translation drones rendered every word in the languages of those present. No distortion, no rhetoric. "You fired first," Hawley continued. "You enslaved systems, silenced species, erased histories. You called it peace." The delegates shifted uneasily. One of them, a scaled minister from Varn, snarled, "And what do you call what you did?" Hale's gaze didn't waver. "Surgery." The word hung in the air like a blade. He gestured, and the holograms ignited around them footage from the battles, time-stamped and verified. The destruction, the aftermath. The med bays filled with survivors. 11,400 ships erased in 340 seconds, said the system voice. 0 prisoners executed. Gasps rippled through the chamber. "These are your crimes," Hawley said quietly, "and our restraint. You will stand trial under Terran law, the oldest law left standing." Crix met his eyes. "And what is that law?" "Accountability without cruelty. Judgment without hatred." One by one, the records of planetary enslavements appeared. Concord. Governors who burned worlds to enforce compliance were named. Evidence of silenced colonies unrolled like scripture. No one interrupted. No one denied God at the end. Hawley said simply, "You built an empire that called fear order. Humanity rebuilt itself to prove you wrong." For the first time, the room felt smaller. Crix stepped forward. "Then what will you do with us?" Hawley regarded him for a long moment. "You will rebuild what you broke, under the Charter." "What? Charter?" "The Charter of Equitable Worlds," he said. "Effective immediately. Every surviving system will have representation, voice, and protection under its articles. No species will rule another again. And if we refuse, then you'll fade as your empire did. History only remembers those who repair it." A silence settled that no machine dared interrupt. The condemned officers lowered their eyes. Some wept, not from pain, but from the weight of understanding that, when the session ended, no executions followed. Instead, transports departed with new orders, reconstruction, reparation, education. On Everest, the announcement was made live. The Concord is dissolved. The Charter rises. Billions watch the broadcast, unsure whether to mourn or breathe. Across once conquered worlds, citizens gathered in squares, hearing Terran voices speak in dozens of dialects. "We will not govern you. We will stand beside you. Lee." Message repeated until the stars faded into morning. Admiral Crix was last to leave the Ark. Before boarding the shuttle, he turned to Hawley. "You could have made us extinct." Hawley nodded. "That would have made us you." The hatch closed. Engines flared. When the ships departed, the Terran fleet remained still silent witnesses to the rebirth of civilization. Commander Hall returned to the viewport. Below him, hundreds of new signals came online. Former enemy vessels broadcasting under a new identifier. Charter Fleet, Neutral Zone. For the first time in 12 millennia, the galaxy's map began to change not by conquest, but by consent. He exhaled softly. Power held. Mercy proven. At the edge of mapped space, silence broke once more. 3 months after the Charter's signing, long-range Terran probes reached the galactic rim, a region where even light hesitated. The void there was colder, older, heavier than physics preferred. Commander Hawley watched from the Ark's observation bay as telemetry scrolled across holodisplays. "Signal detected," said the com officer. "Non-natural pattern. Pulse spacing consistent with Terran beacon code." "That's impossible," Hala murmured. "We decommissioned every lattice relay before the Exodus." The signal pulsed again 5 short bursts, too long. Recognition. Flashed across the consoles. Translation. Confirmed Terran origin, but encryption's wrong. Layered with something else. Something else? An overlay synthetic, but not ours. Across the fleet, data channels bloomed with encoded noise. The signal spread like roots through the network, jumping light years in microseconds. Each time the system tried to isolate it, the code rewrote itself, adapting, evolving. The arcs. AI identified a phrase embedded beneath the static. We were waiting. Hale's spine stiffened. Source? Triangulated 12 points along the rim. Lattice beacons built before the fall, all activating simultaneously. He leaned closer to the viewport. Through the magnified projection, faint glimmers appeared in the darkness beacons. The size of moons, igniting one by one, connected by thin filaments of energy. The formation resembled a web stretched across the edge of the galaxy. Is it ours? Asked the adjutant quietly. Partially, said the AI. Base structure. Terran design. Subsequent modifications unknown. Records indicate post-human alteration approximately 9,000 years ago. Modified by who? Unknown. Pattern signatures not biological. The lattice flared again, brighter this time. Energy cascaded along its arms, sending ripples through subspace. Instruments screened with data overflow, reading gravitational. Distortions mass shadows forming outside the rim, the officer said. Size comparison? Planetary? Or greater? Alive? No biosigns. But there's intent in the modulation. The signal stabilized, and a new transmission emerged deep, resonant, mechanical, like language stripped of emotion. Directive. Containment failed. Origin species reactivated. Protocol exterminator resuming got every Terran on the bridge froze. The phrase hadn't been spoken in 12 millennia. The exterminator protocol, an ancient contingency from humanity's first wars designed to destroy any civilization deemed a threat to life itself. Are we reading this correctly? Confirmed. It's using Terran encryption, but not under. Terran control. The lattice brightened, spreading across sectors faster than any known drive. Each beacon emitted a harmonic tone, a siren rising from the void. Distance to activation wavefront? 17 light hours and closing. Hale stood, posture calm but eyes distant. Patch all fleets. Full alert. Begin rim convergence. His. Adjutant swallowed hard. Sir, are we preparing for another war? No, Hale said. We're preparing for our inheritance. The transmission shifted frequency again. A secondary code appeared beneath the exterminator signal faint, steady, undeniably human. Command override. Humanity present. Stand down. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the lattice beacons dimmed. Energy levels dropped. To baseline, the void returned to silence, but not peace. The network remained active, waiting for confirmation. Status? Exterminator units offline. Power stable. But something's listening from beyond the rim. Hale exhaled slowly. They built failsafes even against themselves. And now the failsafes have questions. He turned to his officers. Transmit to all charter systems. Contingency dawn. Humanity will monitor the lattice. If the signal returns, we respond together. The adjutant hesitated. Together? Even? With them? Especially with them, Hale said. Mercy wasn't the end. It was the test. The Ark's engines pivoted toward the dark horizon. In the vast distance, faint light rippled once more, one beacon blinking alone, refusing to. The message came through faint but clear, carried on Terran frequencies. That we see you, descendants. Do you still remember what mercy costs? Hale closed his eyes. Always. The arc accelerated into the dark, engines burning blue across the cold edge of creation. Behind them, the Charter of Equitable Worlds stood united for the first time in history. Ahead, the unknown waited older, colder, and infinitely patient. The universe had one rule: don't wake the humans. And now, the humans were awake.